speaker is Jack Bray. Sir, you have 5 minutes.
First of all, thank you all. The parade was fantastic. And it just so happened I invited people from Norfolk, Chesapeake, Beach to come with me, to come to it. They had only one of them had been there before, so it really did go off real well, and you did a great job. I want to say good evening to you all up there to save some time, and thank you for looking out for the best interest of our city. My name is Jack Bray, and I'm an important officer area of Portsmouth, and I love it. I think we have a great city. However, I've got a couple things I want to bring up to you. Customer service. How may I help you? Hear this loud. Citizens of Portsmouth, how may I help? How may it help you? Customer service. However, you ask the question. Most every act that the City Council takes up should be looking first and from the perspective of the citizens of Portsmouth. Right? Look at it from the citizens' point of view. What's on their mind? How can the city use the resources? However, how can we use you look over the resources and the manpower, women power, right? And the money that must be figured out in that mix. But we look at these citizens, how they can be helpful, like you did tonight, the volunteers. Well, recently I had the opportunity to call on the city department for assistance. The call intake person and the person who came out to my home in a timely manner, they did a fine job, and I will get the bill in the mail. However, one part of the process concerned me. I was told that they could not give me a time or even a time range within a few hours as to when they would be out. Only between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. I'm handicapped. Secondly, I asked if they could give me a call about a half hour from the time arriving to my property so I would be sure to be ready, not be in the shower or wherever, so I could be ready to be on time to save them time so they could move on to whatever else they had to do. No, that's not part of the policy. Question. Most every private company I know that comes to my home to deliver or provide me with a service during such as this, it's professional, okay, they have this type of policy. They give me a range, and they tell me I'll call you in a half hour. That tells me they're on their way, they're not running late. I think this type of professional is saving the citizens, as me, time. I sit there for 8 hours, waiting, and then, now, remember, these people that came that day came out there quickly, did a great job. I didn't wait 8 hours. That wasn't the point. It was the way it was handled from the front end. And the lady that was talking, the intake person, she was just telling me the way it is. That's the way it is. I'm not faulting that person. But I do think we need to take a look at a change here in how we handle our customer service, okay? Secondly, along the same line, customer service, I believe getting feedback from Portsmouth citizens can be very helpful to you and your fine city. With the electronic meeting opportunities, more of our citizens who work nights, who have health problems, time conflicts, driving, transportation limitations, cannot attend these meetings. Oftentimes, it is the resident in the neighborhood that spots a problem. They're on the field, they're in the trenches. Or they find a praise report to tell you guys how great you're doing, right? And they go over, and that goes over and looked over by the administrative staff. We are your eyes and your ears. I believe the conduct of myself and other speakers, as well as yourselves, need to be appropriate. Okay, there's a question about that. And ground rules need to be in place to ask anyone who abuses those, as you did tonight, that they would just stop and get off the podium. Okay? But, however, to not allow the citizens of Portsmouth who are unable to attend this meeting and would like to hear non-agenda items just like mine tonight or anybody else, not to hear those, I believe that is a wrong decision. And I respect those people that made that decision, but I would like you to take another look at it. Okay? I realize why it was done, but I believe the citizens come first. They have some good ideas. I have some good ideas about bringing some business into here. You take off some Portsmouth resident, they don't come to the city council meeting, they don't help out. Who's being hit and hurt here? All of us, every one of us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I got 32 seconds left. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sergio Deal, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, and the general public. My name is Sergio O'Neill, and I live in the Capital Manor section of Portsmouth. First of all, I would like to start off my comments by saying this. Thank you to each and every one of you, including our city manager and her staff, for making sure that education is indeed first in this city, making sure that you all provided the funding for the teacher and staff raises, because that's very needed. That shows progression in this city, that shows the trust barriers being broken in this city, and we're moving on. And with our city council and our school board working together to make sure our students come first. They deserve more than ever now a quality education, and make sure that they have educators in those classrooms getting paid somewhat close to what they deserve is a key step. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you. Second of all, I'd like to echo the sentiments of the speaker before me. You know, a lot of times when people are at home, they can't come out to attend these meetings. You know, citizens do provide information on issues and events that come up in the city that may not be on the city's agenda, that, you know, that they will be glad to hear. To punish the entire city for a few people's negligence or outrageous show of emotion is hurtful to us, because we are, at the end of the day, all still neighbors, and we still all like to hear from each other. So I agree with the gentleman before me. We need to look at this decision again when it comes to not recording the non-agenda section of this meeting. I think as taxpayers, because I know a lot of us just got our personal property tax bill, me included, that part of the money that we pay to the city provides this recording. And I, for one, would like to see that recording return to air. I think that, you know, when we have people that are out of control and outside of the rules and regulations of this forum, they can be dealt with by our fine sergeant at arms. I've seen them in action at the school board meeting the other night, last Thursday. So, you know, we have protocols in place, you know, to deal with such individuals, but again, to punish the whole city by not allowing us to share our, you know, our views from the citizen standpoint of what needs to be known in this city, what's happening in this city. Because there are a lot of things that go on that just don't make the city's agenda. You know, there's a lot of good organizations out here that are doing some great work in this city that need to be heard from. But, you know, again, because we have people that don't use social media all the time, they may want to see the recording live. They may want to see the recording so they can write down the information, so they can come out and attend. Prime example, Mayor Rowe brought up the issue of a diversity committee. You know, dealing with different racial issues in the city. There's a fine organization already working on that. Virginia Organizer has been in Portsmouth for about 1.5 years. They've been addressing the racial issues, talking to citizens, trying to bring them together. Breaking the barriers of racism, bringing people together. That's already going on, and I can guarantee you that it would not cost the city $50,000. We can use that money for other things. We can do and listen, you know, spend that money and put it in other places. Because we have people that are ready and geared to talk about diversity and what we need to do as a city to move forward. Because at the end of the day, we get tired of seeing our city on the news. We have racial problems. Every city has racial problems, but for some odd reason, we get targeted like it's unique to Portsmouth. Right? So we can move that forward and change the narrative when it comes to us being on the news and saying what we need to do different. You know, so we don't need a diversity committee. We have organizations already out here, and when these organizations become before council and let you know when the next meeting date is and all that, that needs to be recorded and broadcasted live. You all are very, very much invited to come and attend these meetings. See what your citizens are saying. Because guess what? They should be, all of us should be valuable at election time during the off season too. I know some of y'all come out and shake hands and hold babies and kiss them and all that good stuff, but we don't want to just see y'all during election time. We want to see y'all all the time. So we want to hear from you all too. That's what civic engagement is all about. So again, I ask all of you to revisit that decision, to not record the non-agenda speaker section, and let's get it right. We are doing some great things in this city, and that's one more thing we can get right. Y'all have a great night.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Lorenzo Waters, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members. I also would like to comment on the April 9th work session when the council voted not to record the non-agenda speakers, because there are some things that are said during the non-agenda that can be helpful to other people. And without that being shown, those people are not hearing it and they're not being helped from it. And what I came here to speak on is the dealings with the new City Hall building. And I would just like to read something, and this is one of the things that I was talking about that will not be recorded. Under the deal, Portsmouth would rent its new City Hall building from Armada Hoffler for 20 years for at least $2.16 million per year, with an annual rental rate increase of 2%. It would also pay for new parking spaces there under the cheaper of two options offered by the company. The city would pay $18.4 million for 670 spaces. The building and parking would go on the site of the city's County Street parking garage, which would be demolished. The first thing that I would like to address is the $2.16 million per year with an annual rental rate increase of 2%. So the city will be renting. So what happens after the 20 years? None of you will probably be on council if anyone is still here. But what happens after that 20 years? And that will also cause an increase in sales tax and it will cause an increase in sales tax and real estate tax. So again, the city will be renting from a privately owned company. But like I said, $2.16 million per year for 20 years. What happens after 20 years for the City Hall building? And that's what I had to say. And something else, I was at the last meeting on May the 14th, and I asked a question concerning the Portsmouth City Jail. And my question was, will the Portsmouth City Jail be closed down or will it be moved? Councilwoman Simmons, when I asked that question, I stood at this podium. You didn't make no comment. Mayor Rowe, I asked a question. You did not make a comment. But yet, when I got out in the lobby, first, Councilwoman Simmons, you came to me in the lobby to comment on the questions that I asked. Why couldn't you comment on it during the meeting? And the same with you, Mayor Rowe. You commented on the questions that I asked about the Portsmouth City Jail out in the lobby. Why couldn't you comment on it during the meeting? And I would like to ask, could you repeat tonight on record what you told me outside in the lobby about the questions that I asked? Will the Portsmouth City Jail be closed down or will it be moved?
Sir, your time is up. Thank you. And the
make note that what you were repeating about the Armada Hoffler's request to the city is just that. What you are reading is from a Virginia Pilot newspaper article that is only what Armada Hoffler offered to the city. Any memorandum of understanding between the city of Portsmouth and Armada Hoffler has not been finalized. So do not believe that anybody has made a decision what kind of city hall to build, where to build it, how many parking places it'll have, or what the terms of any financial arrangement will be. None of that has been decided. What you're reading is what Armada Hoffler offered to the city. And we have taken a vote to go into conversation with Armada Hoffler about what we want to do and what we can come to terms with. But no decisions have been made on any of that.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Mark Drosky. And sir, you got 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow interested parties. It's deeply gratifying to be the 4th person to speak on essentially the same issue. Particularly so because I've had no conversations with any of the preceding 3 speakers about the contents of my remarks or the contents of their remarks tonight. So great minds really do run in the same direction. You know, there's a misunderstanding, I believe, among some members of council. The justification for taking this action, which is a contravention of more than 20 years of tradition in this city, that the entirety of city council meetings would be recorded and made available to the public. I think there's a misunderstanding of the right relationship between the elected officials and the public they serve. You are not our parents. You are not here to discipline us or punish us. You are here to serve us. And in my view, the best interests of the public are served by having a complete record of what transpires in this chamber. I should add, parenthetically, this chamber is paid for by the taxes of the people of this city. The utilities that make these proceedings possible are paid for by the taxpayers of this city. And the services of the person who is recording these proceedings are paid for by that very same group of taxpayers. So for you to decide that things people say here, stakeholders in the city say here, reflect badly on your efforts to tell the Portsmouth story, I need to go back and reiterate that none of you owns the Portsmouth story. The Portsmouth story is the story of all of us who live here, who work here, who pay taxes here, and who care about the well-being of this community. So we get to tell our version of the Portsmouth story. And if it doesn't line up with yours, you as the elected representative should reflect on how your story is diverging from ours, and consider how you can better represent us in telling our version of the story. You are not without self-interest. every political figure wants to represent her or himself in the best possible light. That's part of the human condition. But to put your interest above the interests of the city as a whole is a misuse of the power we have invested you with. So I want to say to you that you have an obligation to us to do our will and to tell the whole story as it plays out in this chamber. And if there are people in other places who happen to see it and they walk away with a negative impression, that's on them. But you're creating a negative impression with your censorship of the voices of the citizens. Yes, I can say something here, but it stays here. If you weren't in the room, you didn't hear it. And despite our best efforts to get that story out, that story belongs as part of the whole. So I urge you to reverse your actions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Cliff Page, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Mr. Mayor and Council, tonight I'd like to address an area of the city that is bounded on its west side by Elm Avenue, and it goes to Effingham Street between Queen Street and High Street. This area is divided into 2 areas, and it all falls within the form-based review D2 district. The area from Primrose Street to Effingham Street is part of the Downtown Historic Preservation District, Historic District. That district is in the National Historic District. To the west of that, which is the old Evans Electric Building, that is not in the district. But significantly, Evans Electric abuts that district. Now, in 2011, I came to the council, but before I did come to the council, I went to the former city manager and gave him a dissertation, a very thick document on the history of the devolution of what had happened with the Downtown Design Review Committee, the D1 to the D2 to the DDC, so on, and what had happened in the power struggles that had gone on. And I asked him in particular, don't let anything happen that's going to get this city in trouble. Well, sure enough, the city did get in trouble because the Oasis building, y'all remember that, this is where 100 people would hang out in front and defecate and urinate at everyone's doors. And it would blight the city more than anybody coming up to this council and making comments. This was something that everybody complained about. But this was something that was there for years, and the city wanted to take it down. The people who owned it wanted to move out. Well, the city decided that they would go behind the people's backs and take this property off of the National Historic Record without mentioning a word to anyone. And they did. And I found out about it. And I tried to get a permanent injunction against the PRHA who did this. But I failed because when I mentioned this was a federal issue, the judge said, where's the circuit court? And even though I told him there's lots of stuff involved in this in the state too, he didn't want to hear it. But it gave me time to go up to Richmond and get this relisted almost immediately because the Virginia Department of Historic Resources sent an inspector down and they said, absolutely, it's a historic building. That building and mine next door are 2 of the most important buildings in this block. Now, I came to the council and I spoke to the council then. Some of you are still on it. And Kenny Wright was the mayor at that time. And Kenny Merrick was very angry at me. He exhibited that anger and he would not let me finish speaking. Now, I'd be given a speech, and it was like, now here's all the laws that have been broken. up to this time, and now the water is under the bridge, and let's move forward. And at that point, he cut me off, and nobody rose their hands and said, as they had in the past, we'll extend some extra time. We want to hear what he has to say, but every councilman on the council had the document. The city manager had a more extensive document. The property was put back on the list. Now, in 2014, members of the staff of this city committed felonies in having that building demolished. And they are under investigation still. And I hope that they are imprisoned. Because that building was very important to this city. But now, today, we have Evans Electric being taken down. And I've gone since 6 months ago to the engineers, to the planning, to the environmental inspections, and environmental inspection people, and everybody but engineers knows nothing, like Sergeant Clint. The engineers do. They've issued a demolition permit, and they're out there demolishing this building. It's not in the historic district, but it abuts it. And the the Design Review Committee has authority to properties that abut historic properties. And they have the authority to advise and assist in those matters. And what's going on over there has never been done before in my entire knowledge of all of this. There must be a lot of people inputting on demolition because it is a finite and never returning situation when you take a building down. It is the ultimate thing. That's what's happening in our city, and
Sir,
we need
your
to
time
address
is
it.
up. Thank you. That concludes our non-agenda speakers. We do have a need to go in closed session. Is there a motion to do so?
I move to go into closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code subsection 2.2-3711A1A for the purpose of consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, specifically regarding the Atlantic Union Bank Pavilion, and pursuant to Virginia Code subsection 2.2-3711A13 for the purpose of discussing the acquisition and disposition of real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, specifically regarding profit pay.
Yes, sir. Okay, we have a motion that's been duly made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. Madam Clerk, that motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, the council will go into closed session in the council conference room. After that session, we'll come out of closed session, consider the certification resolution in that room. Thank you. We're now in closed session.